Trapping in Vermont in the future is going to have to be allowed one way or the other. Either it's going to be done by trappers in the fall, where they harvest, fall and winter, where we harvest these fur bears, or it's going to be full-time nuisance trappers, and when they take them in the summer or different times of the year, the fur and meat cannot be harvested.
And they're wasted. They're thrown over a bank or they're taken to the dump. They're caught in July, they're caught in August.
When you're trapping beavers in August, there's kits in the hut that may not necessarily be self-sufficient yet.
The meat isn't utilized, the renewable fur isn't utilized.
We really don't like trapping these animals when their furs are worthless. That goes against what every trapper wants to do.
We love them and want to utilize them and keep those populations healthy so that those populations can continue to thrive and we can utilize that resource.
If you were to succeed in passing a law to ban all trapping on July 1st of whatever year, on July 2nd, I will be trapping. And so will most of the other trappers here. And in the months and years going forward, we will be exponentially trapping more than we are now.
The populations are increasing, so they're getting into more urban areas, and that just creates more human conflict.
The state of Massachusetts lost trapping. They eventually had to come around to nuisance trapping and paying people to do what trappers would have done for free.
We had explosions of critters out there, whether it be muskrats on the bog, beavers.
I've had numerous people from other states say they no longer have trapping and they have animals walking all over their property. A lot of them, they're afraid to let their children outdoors because of that reason.
I have talked with people in Massachusetts, in the cities, that are making 6 figures trapping nuisance animals a year.
It's very, very common to charge the people $200 a beaver, $100 for raccoons, even higher.
People would get into it just for the money. They wouldn't care what happens to the population.
Potentially, a ban on trapping would make us all rich, but we're not in it for the money. We're in it for the animals.
It's very important to a lot of farmers to remove the coyotes and stuff that are killing calves. I trap for the railroad. I remove nuisance beaver for them. You wreck a train, it's a very expensive issue.
Your average person loves a beaver until the beaver's flooding their road, their field, their house. And once that begins to occur, they begin to hate the beaver.
Public perception starts to change from being a valued animal to a pest or a vermin.
If you harvest them as trappers, we treasure those and look upon them as a valuable resource.
General beaver ecology is that they move into an area, they will eat all the food, they'll use that food to make their huts and their dams and everything, but at some point they run out of food. So if you can get ahead of that cycle and remove just a few large beavers each year, but allow the small beavers to continue to grow, what you're doing is you're removing the mouths that eat the most of the resource. And so you're allowing those little ones to always have food to make sure that you're perpetuating and keeping beavers on the landscape instead of them going through big ups and downs.
It's like preventative medicine, you know? Try to get it early before it's a problem, before you get cancer, before you get a disease, and everyone's gonna be a lot healthier. Don't wait until it gets really bad to do something about it.
If trapping is stopped in Vermont, you're gonna have a lot more diseased animals.
Overpopulation causes disease, and it's a sad thing to see animals diseased running around because you know that they're leading a terrible, terrible hard life.
The cruelest thing is Mother Nature. If Mother Nature is allowed to control the populations, they will die miserable deaths.
The one thing that all these animals do is they all have babies. When they get grown up, all these babies are kicked out on their own and they have to find a place to live. And without trapping to create an empty space on the landscape for the next generation to move into, there literally is no room at the inn. Everywhere these dispersing animals go, they run into others of their species that are already there. And unlike the dog park, where all the animals play nice, or a Disney movie, any animal dispersing into another animal's territory is viciously attacked and driven off.
It's sad when you go and harvest a beaver and there's so many bite holes from other beavers that being territorial on it that he has gangrene and everything under his skin, that critter is suffering horrible. And you know, if anything, we eased his pain by taking him out. I wish it could have been sooner, before he was being abused by the other ones.
Our annual trapping season provides a regulated harvest of these species, which are overly abundant, very widespread, and all of that is governed under biological and sound wildlife management strategies.
Fur bearers in particular are usually pretty secretive animals, and so it's hard to collect data on fur bearers without collecting data from trappers.
Population is monitored only through trappers and hunters' reports.
We have to submit carcasses for fisher, otter, and bobcat.
They provide where they catch the animal, how much effort they put into it. We can look at the animals themselves and tell the age, the sex, the health of the animals.
We should be very careful about going down the path of banning trapping. We would lose the cost-effective way that we collect data that allows us to determine what's threatening these populations out there on the landscape.
The biological data that we provide to the Fish and Wildlife Department cannot be overstated. We as trappers have our finger on the pulse of the fur bearer populations, and we feed that information back to the Fish and Wildlife Department.
This data goes back many, many decades. And you can't tell wildlife populations by just getting 1 year data. You've got to have multiple years so you get trends on how the animals are doing.
I'm a Fish and Wildlife Board member. We are charged with the task of creating or changing any new rules that concern hunting, fishing, and trapping. We are in partnership not only in the harvest of these animals, but in the regulation and possible changes in any regulations that these studies or these reports may mandate.
State wildlife agencies are monitoring those populations to make sure that there is a surplus that we can harvest. Otherwise, seasons are curtailed, shortened.
All of these animals that they trap are abundant in the state of Vermont. Why are they abundant? Because of people like trappers and hunters and sports people in the state of Vermont that care about these animals.